Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1.
I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm strong to the finish, cause I eat me spinach. Oh, son of a...
Hey, not bad. You made it all the way to Sailor Man. Not bad at all.
How the smooth did Jack Mercer do it for 40 years?
How did Clarence Nash do Donald Duck for 50? I'm sorry, I understood 0% of that.
Oh, head rush.
Oh, jeez. Hi, everybody. I'm SurferClock, and the unconscious guy is TAP-G, and we're What's the Attraction, where our work is your vacation. Once upon a time, in the pages of a newspaper, lived these things called comics. Charlie Brown, Garfield, and far too many characters no one under the age of 10 would get. Anyway, in these comic strips, short sequential narratives would, with simple illustrations, tell a joke. In the older old days, they used to be more action-packed and had more adventures over multiple days and full story arcs. The Adventures of Popeye the Sailor Man, published by King Feature Syndicate, first premiered in 1929, starred the burly, squinty-eyed Navy officer who rubs the heads of lucky chickens to gain his Herculean strength and beat up roided bullies. That's not weird or anything, is it?
And in case you're wondering, the spinach thing came about in 1931 when it was believed its high iron count improved one's strength. Even though the calculations were found to be way off and iron was found to be not as effective as once thought, it was still a healthy vegetable that increased sales considerably. So, take what you can get. And yeah, if it was all about iron, then that makes Popeye Iron Man.
Now,
What?
you can do better than that. You know you can.
Okay, so he's also an enhanced super soldier of the U.S. military. He gets stronger the angrier he gets, and he's uses a hammer. Oh, still 3 Avengers references. That ain't bad.
Popeye endured in comic strips, then the Max Fleischer cartoons of the 30s and 40s. In 1980, he had his first feature film starring Robin Williams in his first movie role. He's even supposed to be getting an animated movie in the next few years, made by Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, and Hotel Transylvania creator Gengi Tartakovsky.
But we're focusing on Popeye and his presence in Universal Orlando. See, among other rights purchased for use at Universal's Islands of Adventure, alongside Dr. Seuss, Marvel, and Jurassic Park, were the creations of Jay Ward and King Feature Syndicate. Ward provided the rights of Rocky and Bullwinkle, among other characters, and King Features provided the rights to all the relevant characters of the Sunday Funnies like Beetle Bailey, Blondie, Shoo, Kathy, and Hagar the Horrible. Everybody remembers them. And yet, we'll probably never see a Garfield ride, or a Far Side ride. Sure as smooth never see a Calvin and Hobbes ride.
And so, alongside Rocky and Bullwinkle and Dudley Do-Right, Popeye got not 1 but 2 attractions. Today we're focused on Popeye and Bluto's Bilge-Rat Barges.
Now, all you internet-savvy millennials out there, feel free to scrounge around YouTube for vintage Popeye cartoons after listening to this episode. But if the ad is taking too long, here's the gist of every Popeye cartoon ever. Wish me luck.
Oh boy, I love you, Olive Oil. Use the most beautiful guile. Ow, Popeye!
I don't do boundaries or consent. I'm gonna steal your goyle, cause women are only pawns to fight over between men in bouts of toxic masculinity.
Why, I gotta lay use hands off me goyle.
Ha ha ha, you're weak, Popeye. Har har har.
I'll just eat me spinach. Boom. Alright, Pluto, get your hands off me goyle.
I appreciate being considered attractive enough to fight over. I don't need your approval for me to feel validated in my sense of self. Now please go away before I call the cops.
I don't remember that last part.
I updated it for modern audiences.
So, once you board your raft, buckle up and put away everything that can't get wet, and we mean everything. This isn't like Splash Mountain or Dudley Do-Right's Ripsaw Falls. You're either going to get damp or drenched.
Soon, your raft plunges down the river. But Bluto being Bluto, he just can't leave well enough alone. He switches the sign, so instead of going to Paradise Island, we careen towards Hurricane River with Olive Oil captured.
And as per usual, Popeye is ready to fight back. He and Bluto go tug of war on Olive, who now seems to have more in common with Mr. Fantastic over at Marvel Superhero Island than an actual human woman. Oh, and watch out for the occasional crashed ship spouting out gallons of water on your craft.
After you cruise by me ship the Olive and a few beached boats, you briefly coast through a cave where Popeye's beating up an octopus, because, of course, why not?
Then comes the coolest part, Bluto's Boat Wash. A massive treadmill draws your raft up an incline, where the burly villain cackles, letting the errant hoses and brushes soak you and your raft. But when all looks lost for Popeye, Olive Oil, and the baby Sweet Pea, for some reason, Popeye finds his can of spinach and guzzles down the contents.
Popeye the Sailor Man, hero to vegans everywhere.
It goes about as you'd expect. Popeye shows Bluto a thing or two, because violence solves everything, right? And so the day is saved, sans feminism, thanks to canned vegetables.
Now the question, does this deserve the Navy seal of approval? Let's blow the men down.
Well, I would say if I had to describe it in one word, it's nice.
It really is, isn't it?
It's a pleasant attraction. I mean, it's got a cartoony sense of fun and whimsy throughout, so, it's good for the, adults, maybe the older adults who remember watching the Popeye cartoons, and for the kids because, hey, cartoons.
And not to mention, it's a good ride unto itself. It's kind of your typical raft ride, kind of like a Kali River Rapids at Animal Kingdom, just kind of a circular boat through splashing around, and it's serviceable.
Yeah, it's hard not to make the comparison to Kali River Rapids, but unlike Kali River Rapids, which we'll get to in a later episode, you're not being bashed in the head with symbolism. It's not, you don't have to feel like you're learning something. It's just a pleasant, nice round raft ride. You do get spun around a considerable bit. It's not terribly unpleasant, and you still kind of get a good idea of everything that's going on. You really don't miss anything.
And that's probably one of the greatest strengths, too. Popeye cartoons, as I was just talking about earlier, they all had the same narrative over and over and over again. And that's one of the great benefits to this attraction, is that the narrative doesn't get in the way of the ride, and the ride doesn't get in the way of the narrative.
Yeah, it can be enjoyed as a whole unto itself. You're not expected to know this deep, convincing plot. You're not expected to take part in that plot.
Yeah, you're really passive in this experience for once. It's kind of a rare breed at Universal.
Yeah, but it's still, again, it's a very pleasant attraction. The figures don't do a whole lot of moving around, but
yeah.
And, they're kind of three-dimensional, which I think in the sense of, like, Popeye cartoons, it is a little weird, isn't it?
It is a little weird, but I think considering the alternative when it comes to Universal...
Screens!
Yeah, I think in this case it works. It works to its benefit, even if they don't always look perfect.
This was a time at Universal before they just required screen after screen after screen to show you what's going on. Not to say much against screens, of course, but, it's nice to see more practical effects in theme parks. But yeah, I wouldn't say this is the most exciting water ride, especially with Islands of Adventure, which does have a lot of exciting water rides. This is not going to be the most exciting, but I think it does a good job of bridging kind of that family gap with the water gap.
I think the best thing we can say about this is that it's a good ride. There is nothing detracting about it at all. It's just a good water raft ride, but it can also be a good Popeye ride. And with that being said, you can't call it pretentious, because there's nothing it's trying hard than to be what it is.
It really doesn't have to try hard.
Thank goodness.
But yeah, I would say it's good, but not truly great.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't really have to be. I think for all that, that it's a good ride, not a great ride, I'm going to go with a 2.5 out of 5, right down the middle of the road for me. It's something I can ride at least once. I might ride it again, but, for me, riding it once was satisfactory.
See, I can't really find anything to fault for about this ride. Like I said before, it's good. There's just nothing great about it, but there's nothing bad about it either. I think when Sony Pictures finally comes out with that animated Popeye movie that sadly has been pushed back because of the Emoji Movie.
Are you serious?
Not even kidding. That's what's going on. Hopefully they'll be able to bridge that generational gap, and kids will be able to identify who Popeye is now, and maybe it'll get more attention in the future. That being said, I'm not a huge fan of this ride, but there's nothing wrong with it. So honestly, I'm just going to give it a 2 out of 5.
A resounding meh from us both. That's a 2 out of 5 from TAP-G and a 2.5 out of 5 from SurferClock. Popeye and Bluto's Bilge-Rat Barges urges riders to be at least 42 inches tall or 106 centimeters tall to ride. Children between 42 inches to 48 inches or 121 centimeters must ride with a supervising companion at least 14 years of age or older.
Riders should be free of heart problems or high blood pressure. Also back or neck problems. Or if you're pregnant. Or if you suffer from motion sickness. Or if you're sensitive to fog effects. Or if you've had recent surgery.
Service animals are not allowed, and those in wheelchairs and scooters will need to transfer.
Riders must continuously grasp the handrail with at least one upper extremity, independently maintain themselves in an upright position while seated. You must keep your head against the headrest, and you must be able to absorb sudden and dramatic movements. Also, when seated, both legs, both natural and prosthetic, must extend to the edge of the seat or terminate below the knee.
If you're into typical rough raft rides, this will be fine. The theming in the queue is abundant, but minimal during the ride, and that's to its benefit. Popeye really isn't known for its narrative and nuances, so it makes sense to fashion a ride that can hold its own as its own entertainment piece without having to just rely on the property.
I'm not big into rough or wet rides, but I think it's alright for what it is. Good ride for those hot, muggy Florida afternoons. And...
Where what's the attraction, yeah? Where what's the attraction, yeah? SurferClock and TAP-G, thanks for listening, see. Where what's the attraction, yeah?
Sorry, you still can't quite pull off the laugh.
I'm not Dave Coulier, alright?